The subject or issue of energy has become a very thorny issue as far as in the public discourse or in the media. But for all the discussions that we tend to have around it is a subject of how we tend to resolve the difficulties facing the country in resolve to improve energy supply. We know that the car power barge is supposed to be coming in by the 10th or the beginning of November 2015. But the concerns that have been raised by not only the experts but also civil society is how perhaps we went through due process in contracting the whole issue of the contracting or the purchase of the car power barge. And one expert who has been speaking on that very subject with one of my colleagues is Dr. Charles Rekuprobe. He was one-time Chief Executive for the Volta River Authority. We'll bring you that very enlightening interview next.
We've been given a new schedule for the arrival of the power barges. In your assessment as an expert in the sector, what would you say of the due diligence that was done before the barges were applied for? Because there are issues also relating to the availability of fuel to be able to power these barges eventually when they come in.
I think everything has got to do with timing. At the time that the barges were being contracted, most of the thermal power plants in Ghana were down. They were not working. Akosombo was very low. So if the barge had come at the time that it should have come, then it is conceivable that it would have been generating power in place of our own thermal systems. So the idea to contract a barge should not be condemned.
Okay.
Because take your own station. You have a generator by start, so that whenever the power goes off, that takes over. A barge is essentially the same. A barge is a very quick way of bringing in electricity instead of going to contract somebody to build you an electricity plant. So we should not condemn the idea of having a barge. But I think what went wrong was that somebody went and had a discussion with somebody else about the need to have a barge. And they did not tell us what we call in these things the small print. That there were things that needed to be done, payments to be made, certain obligations to be taken that were needed to be done before even the contractor will ship the barge, let alone bring it down here. So it was unfortunate that somebody actually promised a date when the necessary due diligence had not even begun, let alone be completed. So that is being responsible for the shifting date. You know, obviously somebody is bringing something here. He wants you to pay some money up front. He wants you to put some an escrow amount, and you know. So if there's any problem with the barge, it's not with the barge itself, nor are we to blame those who wanted to bring it. It's to blame our own planning. You know, when I was chief executive, I knew from 9 months ahead, because the low level was low, that if we do not take action, there will be doomsday. So from the word go, we said, what do we do to make sure that when the lake is at its lowest level, we should go get, we should have electricity. That was the reason why we got the SRP. The much talked about SRP. And because we didn't have doomsday, you know, so it arrived and it was ready to supply power if doomsday came, if it was necessary. So the thing to do is all to do with the planning. I don't think you should wait for the actual doomsday to happen before you plan to bring a barge. You know, you should anticipate.
All right.
And I think that was the problem. So that is really what it is. But I'm just saying, you know, let's put it in its proper context. It didn't come in April. Fortunately for us, I think at a seminar that your own organization hosted, we said that since the barge hadn't come, we should focus on making sure that all the plants, thermal plants in Ghana, which were down, were repaired and put back into order. Fortunately, all of that has been done.
Yeah.
So all our thermal plants are back. So even though the lake is not at its full level, the combination of the lake and the fact that we have a thermal plants means that we should be able to generate the necessary power.
But I'm not cutting you.
Yeah, no,
the longevity of this thermal plant to continue supplying us the gas that we need.
No, not the gas, the power.
The power that we need to operate to is not guaranteed.
No, but see, let's deal with. We deal with the necessity before we deal with the other things. At the moment, what is the problem facing Ghana? We are in the middle of doing so.
Yeah.
Almost 4 years into doing so. So the question you need to ask yourself is, what do we do in the immediate future to stop doing so? At one stage, car power was part of the solution. Because it's been delayed, it is not part of the immediate solution. Because we are talking about November. And even November, we don't know. We've got a shifting sun.
Precisely.
It has left, it hasn't even left where it is. We are not sure whether the conclusions are. So the statement I was making was that at this present moment, car power is not part of the solution for doing so. Now, that's different from will car power be part of the solution for the future? That's an entirely different question. But so then, what is the danger? How do we end doom so? We have a plant. It's like having all the VVIP lorries maintained, ready to go to Kumasi, and somebody says, hey, the people who used to supply fuel, we haven't paid them all, so we can't go to Kumasi because there's no fuel. That's the situation we're in. By this Wednesday, NGAS and WACP, who we owe $200 million,
exactly,
have threatened to stop. So
yes,
the important thing for us to focus on right now is not when the barge will arrive, but what happens on Wednesday. Will Ghana be in a position to assure or do something for the Nigerians to say, okay, you've got something and we will not cut you off? That should be the conversation we should be engaging in, not whether coming today, coming tomorrow, or not coming at all. Car power is part of our solution now.
Yes, I got that point.
Yeah.
Regarding the money or the strength ECG needs to keep the system working, you raise the point that it is because the ECG owes Asogli, the independent power producers.
I don't want to go there.
All of this. I mean, there is a cost element.
There is a chain. Please don't focus on ECG. ECG can only distribute power when it is produced.
Yeah.
So we are not.
But then the power it needs is not being given to it because it doesn't have what it takes.
No, the power is not being given to it because we are not generating enough. Look, if
and why are we not generating enough?
That is why we are in doom. So, look, because we pay ECG, we blame ECG for all our problems. But the issue is that ECG can only distribute what it is actually given by VRA and the independent power producers. Okay. So if those people don't give ECG the power, they cannot distribute. The problem of cash flow that you must get right is that the Nigerians are not being paid, not because VRA doesn't want to pay them, but ECG, is owned by the government of Ghana, nearly 2 billion Ghana cedis. Therefore, ECG is unable to pay Asogli. Yeah. Asogli gets the power gas from VRA. So if Asogli is not paid, Asogli too cannot pay VRA. And therefore, VRA cannot also pay the Nigerians. That is the cash flow problem. It is not that ECG technically doesn't want to pay, but the issue is that, government of Ghana, can you imagine that the government of Ghana, which is not paying ECG, has accepted as a condition for introducing or accepting American money, payment of the debts that he owes to ECG? So you can ask yourself a question, Well, if you are prepared to pay that as a condition of taking the white man's money, why don't you pay now? You know, so the assurance of car power and all those things is a smoke screen. That's not to say that in a future stage we will not need to, if you like, stabilize or have in the short term some thermal plants. But I say we'll cross that bridge when we get there. It's a different conversation. The conversation that we have is that will we end Dumso by the end of December? My answer is that, well, if that is what we are looking for, or will Dumso get worse? I think that is an even greater threat to us. Because if the Nigerians don't pay for the stop the gas, it means Asogli will stop.
So, for if I get you right, the arrival of the power barges has no bearing whatsoever on as to whether the country will be able to end Dumso.
At the moment, yes. That's what you're saying. That is what I'm saying. Because one, we don't even know when it will come, and I'm saying that there's a clear and present danger, which is that the person that fuels one of the few cars we have is threatening to take away the fuel. And when they take away the fuel, Asogli, which has been our mainstay, will stop running. Because Asogli can only run on gas. And then we talk about Takoradi. Takoradi at the moment is being supplied by Ghana Gas. Well, we say, oh, Ghana Gas is our own gas. Well, the issue is that Ghana Gas is also owed over $100 million. If you work for Ghana Gas, you are interested in making sure that every month you get paid. So you make sure that your pay coming to you goes side by side with your commitment and patriotism. If your pay doesn't come because VRA has not paid, very soon the workers will be up in arms.
Doc, as part of the ongoing argument is that ECG should be privatized, but you think that the issue is not about privatization, rather the ECG should be listed on the stock exchange that Ghanaians can buy shares and have that stake in ECG. Rather, they should be looking at the managerial side.
That is my view.
Yeah, which you suggest.
Let me put it this way. Anybody who gets power, what they are interested in is they want power reliably and at the cheapest possible cost. That's what we are interested in. But unfortunately, part of the Ghanaian psyche is that we are instinctively against the privatization of state-owned assets. It's not something we like. So anytime people confuse, and also unfortunately, our governments, since Nkrumah, have always thought that the private sector injection is the best route to improve the management or the efficiency. With ECG, this has been tried at least 2 or 3 times. You know, the French came, it didn't work. The Irish came, it didn't work. So the issue that we should be talking about is that how best do we improve ECG and to make sure that Ghanaians do not also get a feeling that the family jewel is being given to foreigners. That's why I'm suggesting that, look, let's take away ownership from efficient management. Ghanaians can own it, but we also need to make sure that we should not put the ownership and control under governments, because every government has shown that it interferes in the management of ECG. So why don't we have our cake and eat it? Let's take ECG to the Ghana Stock Exchange. Let us allow every Ghanaian to buy, shares in the ECG. This is how Margaret Thatcher actually privatized a whole lot of state-owned assets in Britain, so that by the time she started, only about 14% of Britons owned shares on the stock market. By the time she finished, nearly 70% of British people own shares on the stock market. So it was truly theirs. Then we separate that and say, now this is our company, and the stock market is subjected to the rules of commerce. No government can come and tell us what to do. Then let's get a management team that can do this job the best possible way. Not only shall we take some of this money and the people run away with the money, we will say to you, number one, as the management, you take a stake also in the ownership. And two, you will be given benchmarks and performance indicators that you must meet, and if you meet, we can give you your bonuses for that. So I think that is a way forward. But last week, as soon as the media briefed Ghanaians, the only thing that they were concerned about was privatization. And I'm saying no, and that in a way is there because the conditions precedent to Americans giving us money is that we should hand over ECG to a private sector. I haven't read anything that says these are the reasons that we believe that competent, well-trained, capable Ghanaians should not be able to run ECG. Because I'm saying, for example, if ECG was paid all the money it was owed, can we actually say that it is not competent? We don't know.
Yeah, and that brings me to my next point about the distress action it is embarking on to collect debts owed to it by government institutions and companies. To what extent do you think that these debt collections are going to impact largely on its efficiency?
Well, you see, there was a time, and I've been long enough in this business to sometimes tell an answer. Look, there was a time when we used to have something called a little committee between government, the utilities, and everybody else, called the cross-debt committee. So what will happen is that government institutions will go and use up a whole lot of ECG's money, and then government will say that, okay, we are pumping so much money into ECG and VR, and let's sit down and all agree. It was something which encouraged irresponsibility on the part of institutions. You go to certain institutions and they'll be making ice blocks and running their commercial business because government was paying their bills. And I'm saying that, look, part of ECG was not there just to connect electricity. It is also to ensure that it collects the revenue. Okay. So ECG should be a proper distribution company that takes the money for all that it gets. Now, there is a funny situation here that we need to be careful, because I know that over the years, and especially under Setepe, a lot of institutions are being given, if you like, the money for their utilities as part of the money that goes to them. So unless, and of course, a utility has not received its bills, it should be paying its own way. It shouldn't be expecting government to be coming to pay its utility bills. Take this very funny situation. Some of the institutions, when they are cut off, they find money to go and buy fuel and put in their generator.
Precisely.
Exactly.
So
So if they find money from their own internally generated funds to go and pay fuel to buy fuel, then it means that Sebi is a trimude. They think that government should come and pay their tariffs for them. So the only thing that I would suggest is that ECG should tamper mercy or justice with mercy. They should sit down, anybody who say, and say, look, let's arrange repayments. If you default even one, we shall cut you off. I think it is about time. And it is also about time that we start, I think in the article I sort of about, we should define the limits of free. Yeah. We keep talking about, we'll give free this, we'll give free that. And I know, even though my children are more grown and they are not part of the system, I know PTAs are being charged utility contributions, government is paying utility contributions. So what are the schools doing with those contributions?
But isn't that what we want as a people? That aside.
No.
But we all call for free education. We want free lights, free water. Isn't it the demand from the people you are taking care of?
I think it is not. You see, I think you've heard me say that if we think the people are not informed enough, we should inform their discretion. A politician wants to give the idea that, oh, just leave everything to me. I'll give it to you free. But it is not true. Look, it is the responsibility of governments to ensure that power comes to your home. It is not the responsibility of government to then pay for the power for you. Because for the government to pay, it's a revenue matter. We are borrowing money. We are 70% of our national budget is what?
But other countries are doing it.
No,
Ghana is
they are
the
not.
only country
They are not doing that.
Look,
I studied in Britain. Everything was paid for. There were grants. But even now, if you go to Britain, a lot of education is paid for. You know, this idea that it is the government to provide. I think, in fact, at the moment, I'm actually discussing with a very well-known education expert that as a country, we need to define which part of education should be free. Does free apply to everything? We should define. Yes, our constitution say education must be free and progressive, but what does free cover? Does it cover Pampas? No.
To end it, Doc, finally, how justified are the utility companies in their new, how would I say, requests?
I'm actually going to
for 200% increment in tariffs.
I think it's like the old, you know, it's part of Guardian character. When you go to the market, when they say something is even free, so you see, part of the Guardian character is always to ask for a reduction.
Of course.
So the utilities are asking for 200.
Yeah.
They will finish up. The reality is far less. We are going to examine it. But let me give you just one little piece of information. 3 years ago, when the tariff review took place, the currency was about what? 2-point-something cedis to the pound, or to the dollar. It is now nearly 4 cedis to the dollar. So if for nothing else, the value of the tariff in 2001, in terms of dollar and cents term, has halved. Now, unfortunately, the fuel that we owe for, the money we owe WACP, the generators we need to bring into the country, the virtually 90%, apart from salaries, everything that we need to run an efficient power system is imported. So if for nothing at all, simply retaining the 211 value means that you must even double, if not, you know, so
that is supposed to mean that, for you know, they want something less than that, but to be able to get a good bargain, they have to peg it at that.
I think they will get a little less. But all I'm saying is that if they didn't even ask for any increase, I mean, if for example, you see, if I was making the presentation, I would have just said, I want the value, the real value of the tariff as it stood in 2001.
And what would that have been?
That would have been at least 150% of what we see. That is it's presentation. It's presentation. But you see, they are not responsible for the management of the currency of this country. All right? So whoever is responsible for the management of the currency, it is incumbent upon them that we have a stable CD. Because a stable CD will ensure that we'll get a non-runaway dollar, and therefore the cents that we pay. But that's number one. Number two, we have lived in doomsday for a long time. Do you know how much a stick of candle costs these days? Tell me.
I don't know.
A stick of candle is probably about 40 or 50 pesos. And that will light up only one room for about 4 hours. The current cost per kilowatt hour, it will light up several bulbs. It will let you watch television. It will let you do several things. So I think it all needs to be relative. You see, if you go and ask anybody, are you happy paying more tariff? They say, oh, it's too much. Our salaries are so low and all of that stuff. So nobody instinctively wants to say yes. But I believe that tariff increases are justified. But the more important thing we should worry about is that the quality of service And I'll be asking the utilities, can you tell us, in the last 5 years, the promises you made to improve quality and how many of those promises you have kept? We are sitting in doom so.
And do you blame them?
No,
with all the issues?
No, of course I blame them.
So they wouldn't be able to give the answers you need from them?
No. If let me blame them. Let me blame them in the sense that there's a difference between sharing an inadequate cake and providing us with a good cake. The cake may be very small. It will not reach us, all of us. We would like to get more, but it's quality cake. That's different from saying the cake must be big enough so that everybody gets their share.
Doc, your last words, especially on the power barges, have we rushed in going for them? I mean, assuming...
I don't think, I think...
Because for you, it will serve in the longer term than...
No, you see, I need to be very, very careful. Because I don't want to... I think, not in the longer term, in the short to medium term. I mean,
short to medium.
Look, the lake is at a level which is lower than what it was last year. The lake level today is lower than what it was last year. So it is short of all the generation it needs to meet all our needs, for the next year. So it is more than likely that we will need some kind of reserve injection into the system. But that is not particular to car power. All I'm saying is that insofar as this is not part of the immediate solution, why don't we do a better thing? Let us evaluate whether car power is the best option. Because we've contracted it under emergency. Therefore, you tend to deal with figures, which means that you're going to pay more for an emergency. The emergency that car power is going to provide is past.
But, well...
So, no, the issue is that it doesn't have to be car power. It can be MFA and coal power company. It can be recoverable power company. Let us not have a fixation. Yes, we may need injection of power in the short term, but it need not be a specific provider. I have been approached and talked to several providers who are saying that they can give the same to Ghana at a cheaper cost. So the fixation about a particular supplier who has been plugged out of air at an emergency situation needs to be reviewed.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I appreciate the time.
Always welcome.
Hi, Doug.
So, also much here.